If you've ever tried to track your spending in Excel and given up because it took too long to enter everything manually, this video is for you. Today, I'll show you how to build a personal finance tracker where you simply import your bank transactions and Excel automatically classifies them, updates your savings goals, and refreshes your dashboard, ready to keep you on track for 2026. In this video, we're going to build this complete personal finance tracker in Excel, plus a bonus savings tracker to help you reach your goals fast. You won't be typing your transactions one by one. Instead, you'll copy and paste them from your online banking or the export file, and Excel will automatically classify them into their subcategory, category, and category type. It'll then allocate your savings to your goals based on the priority that you set, and update a dashboard that shows your progress at a glance. All right, let's get started. I've got a new file set up here. We're going to start on the transaction sheet. I've put some formatting in just to save some time, but there's no add-ins required. It's just pure Excel. Now I need the following columns: account, date, description, debit, which is spend, credit, which is your income, and then the net income and expense, subcategory, category, and category type. Next, I'll select all the headers and I'm going to turn this into an Excel table, which you do via the Home tab, Format as Table, and I'll pick this pink color in keeping with the theme for this page. My table has headers, click OK, and it's added an empty row ready for me to enter my transactions. Before we do that, I'm going to rename this Table Transactions, or TBL Trans for short. Now, instead of entering the transactions manually, you're going to download them from your bank or copy and paste them in from your online banking screen. So I've done that and I'll paste them in here. Remember, the debits are the amounts going out and credits are your amounts coming in. For the analysis, it's easier if I only have one column of values to work with at certain points. So I'm going to convert the debit and the credit into a single income and expense column. We're going to take the credit minus the debit. And because my data is in an Excel table, it uses the structured reference to reference those columns, and it automatically fills the formula down. Next, to automatically classify each transaction into subcategory, category, and category type, I need a lookup table of the descriptions and how they map into their categories. So I've got a category table sheet set up here ready to go, and I need headers for description, subcategory, category, and category type. Again, I'll format it as a table, and we'll use this yellow color in keeping with the theme for this page. My table has headers, click OK, and we'll call this TBL Cat. Next, you need to fill the rows with the description patterns that we see in the bank statement and the categories you want to map them to. For example, my salary comes from Acme Proprietary Limited, and its subcategory salary, category is fixed income, and the category type is income. I also have expenses for event cinemas, it's entertainment, it's discretionary, and the category type is expense. Now this will take you a bit of time to set up initially, but once you've listed them, you only need to update it if you have a new description. And keep in mind that you don't need to list the whole description, just the keywords or words that enable Excel to make a match. For example, I purchased my fuel from Fuel Co., but I only need to enter fuel here, which is for motor vehicle fuel, it's for transport, and it's an expense. And with just fuel in the description, Excel will be able to match it. Now I'll pause the video while I complete the rest. Now for each transaction description, we'll search this list and return the matching subcategory, category, and category type. So back in the transaction sheet, we'll work on subcategory first, and I can use XLOOKUP combined with search to match part of the transaction description. I'm going to start with search. I'm going to find the text that's in my category table description, and I'm searching within the text in my transactions table description. And this will return a number which represents the position of the match in the description. If a match isn't found, search will return an error. Now, a word of warning, if I press enter here, I get spell errors because search returns an array. Instead, I'm going to pass the results of search to XLOOKUP, which can take the array. However, I don't need the number returned by search. I just need to know if a match is found or not. So I'm going to wrap search in the isNumber function, and that's going to convert those numbers to true or false. Then we can use XLOOKUP to check for true in the lookup array returned by isNumber and search, and the return array is going to be my category table subcategory column. The next argument is if not found. So if it can't find a match, we're going to return uncategorized. And then we can investigate those uncategorized transactions and rectify any errors. Press enter, and there's my subcategory done. Let's copy that across for the category and category type, and we'll just edit the column being returned. So in this case, we just want the category column, and here we want category type. There it is in the IntelliSense. Tab to insert it, press enter, and that's done. With these three formulas, every time you paste new bank transactions into the transactions table, Excel automatically classifies them into subcategory, category, and category type, with no extra work from you. Okay, with all our data prepared, it's time to design the dashboard and turn numbers into insight. The first charts display the total income, expenses, and net income by month. These are actually three separate charts formatted to appear as one. Now I need a pivot table to summarize the data for each chart. So let's go back to our file, and from the transactions I'm going to insert a pivot table. I've already got a sheet set up for my analysis here, so let's pop it there, click OK. Let's drag the field list over closer so we can see it beside the pivot table. Here I want to filter the category type for income only, and then I want to aggregate it by dates in the rows. Now Excel automatically groups the dates for me. You can see I've got date and month. Let's right click and we'll go into the grouping, and instead of grouping it by days and months, I want months and years. Click OK, and now you can see the grouping's changed. I don't actually need years in this pivot table, so we'll drag it out. And I want to summarize the income. Let's right click and we'll go in and format the numbers, because these numbers are going to flow through to our chart. So we'll format them here in the pivot table, and that will save us a job later on. With the pivot table done, I can insert my column chart for the data, and there it is there. I'm not going to format it at the moment. I'm going to do them all in one go. So I'm going to copy this pivot table and paste it, and instead of income, this one we want expense. We don't need the sum of the income, we want the sum of the spend. Again, let's right click and format the numbers to comma separators with no decimals. Let's give this pivot table a different color just to differentiate it, and now I can insert my column chart. That's that one done. Again, we'll format it at the end. For now, I just want to copy this one again, and this is going to be for my net income, so I need to select multiple. That is the expenses and the income. Click OK. Now we want to get rid of the sum of debit spend, and this time we want the combined income and expenses. All right, formatting the numbers to no decimal places and comma separators. Let's give this one a different color, and we'll insert the column chart. All right, there's my three charts done. Let's just grab them all, Control X to cut. And we'll go to the dashboard and we'll paste them in, and we'll format them here. I'll just make it a little bit quicker. All right, with the first one selected, I'm going to format this chart, then we're going to copy the formatting to the others. Right click these fill buttons and we're going to hide them. They just take up too much space. I'll also get rid of the grid lines and the legend. There's only one series, we don't need a legend. Now this chart has a horizontal axis. We're going to share one axis for all three charts, so I'm going to turn it off, and instead I'm going to add data labels. Now these columns are a bit thin, so let's Control 1 and we'll open the Format Data Series pane and change the gap width to 50. That just makes the columns a bit thicker. While we're here, let's go and change the colors for this one to this shades of blue. Change the title to Total Income. Let's move it across to the left, and we'll make this chart much smaller so it fits in the space up here. We can make the plot area a bit bigger just to make the columns bigger. All right, that one's done. So I'm going to select the outer edge of the chart, Control C to copy, select the next chart, and Control V to paste. It looks like it's replaced everything, but you'll notice the values on the columns are different, so we know that this is our total expenses. And let's resize the chart. We'll also go into the colors and we'll change it to the shades of purple. Now when you copy a format You notice this chart now has a dark grey border. I actually don't want borders on any of them, so let's go and change the shape outline to none, and we'll do the same for this one. And now all I need to do is copy the format for this chart, so Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste, make it much smaller. Actually, what I might do is select them all, and on the formatting I'm going to change them so they're all consistent, and we'll also align them to the left. Okay, so this is my net income. Let's rename the title net income. Let's also make the text in these a bit smaller because we don't have a lot of space, and that will just give us a bit more room for the actual columns. Let's move these up slightly. Now this chart needs the horizontal axis because it's going to display the month names. Let's just move the plot area up so we can see it. Now I don't love the color of the text for the axis, so let's go in and we'll change that to a shade of gray. It's also showing tick marks for some reason, even though they weren't there in the first one. So let's change that to none. All right, that looks better. So there's our total income, expenses, and net income. The net income still needs some color change here, and that was supposed to be a shade of pink. Now, in order to make these look like one chart, we can insert a rectangle shape, and I'll just draw it around the three charts. We'll give it no fill, and we'll give it a light gray outline, and we'll change the weight so that it's a bit thinner. There's my three charts. I could probably move them a bit closer together just to give myself more space for my charts that are going to go below, but I won't spend too much time on it. You get the idea. Next, we're going to build the monthly profit and loss pivot table so we can see our income and expenses and net position unfold across the year. So going back to my demo file, I'm going to go to the transaction sheet, and we're going to insert a pivot table, and this time it's going on the dashboard up here in cell F3. Click OK. Let's dock that over there and bring the field list over closer. So this is going to have our years and months going across the columns, on the category type and category going down the rows, and then I want the income and expense in my values. Now it's taking up a load of space, so let's do some formatting to make it fit better. First of all, on the Design tab, I'm going to set the report layout to compact form. That's just going to consolidate the category type and category column into one. Next, we need the income at the top, so let's grab that and drag it to the top. We've also got not reported in here. We don't want to include that in our profit and loss. So clicking on the filter button, deselect not reported. Let's go up and give it a format. We'll use this ice blue pivot style, medium 14. Let's change the number format. I'm not loving it. It's defaulted to an accounting style. I'm just going to use comma separators and no decimal places. And that brings it way down. Next, we've got these column labels and row labels. Let's go to the Analyze tab and we'll turn the field headers off. We also don't need the buttons, the expand and collapse buttons that you see here for income and expense, so let's turn them off. Now notice we only have data up to October, but we want to allow for our data to grow. Now the pivot table will grow, but that's going to start messing with the size of our dashboard. So instead, let's right click, we'll go into the field settings, and in here on the layout and print tab, I'm going to show items with no data. So that's going to include November and December, but it also gives us this less than and greater than date ranges. So let's turn the field headers back on so we can filter them out. Deselect there and there. Now we can go back and turn the field headers back off. I'd also like to add subtotals at the bottom of the group. So now we've got our total income and expense. Let's turn the row headers off just to tone down the formatting. I've also got a subtotal in here for the year. I don't need that because I've got a grand total. So let's deselect subtotal years, and that looks pretty good. Okay, next we need to create the waterfall chart, which is perfect for showing how each category adds to or reduces your overall financial result. So going back to our demo file, on the Transactions tab, I'm going to insert a pivot table. We're going to pop it on our analysis sheet over here. Click OK. And for this, we need the category type and category in the rows, and then the income and expense in the values area. I'm going to filter the category type to exclude not reported items, and we're going to move income to the top. Now, pivot tables don't support waterfall charts, so we have to trick Excel into using the pivot table as the source data. To do that, I'm just going to copy the pivot table data, and let's just scroll over to the right and paste it in as values. And then on the Insert tab, we're going to insert the waterfall chart. Now, it hasn't detected the columns correctly, but that's okay because I'm going to point it back to my pivot table. So right-click, select Data. And in here, we're going to remove the second legend entry and edit this one. So the series name is Income and Expense, and the values are in these cells here, right down to the grand total. Click OK, and then we're going to edit the axis labels, which are these columns here, and click OK, and OK. So there's our waterfall chart. Let's just make it a little bit bigger, and we'll do a bit of formatting before we move it to the dashboard. First of all, I'm going to change the colors in keeping with my dashboard color scheme. Now notice we've got our total column here. We need to left click it twice to select it, and then right click and use set it as the total. Let's do some more formatting. We'll get rid of the grid lines. Let's move the legend to the bottom. And I don't need the vertical axis because I've got labels on each of the columns. All right, that looks good. We forgot to format the numbers for my pivot table, so let's right click, number format. We'll go number with no decimal places and comma separator. Click OK, and all we need now is a title, which is income and expense by category year to date. Let's Control X to cut, go back to the dashboard, and I'm just going to pop it in down here. That looks good. Looks like we need to make these charts all a bit smaller so that we can fit them in line with the height of the pivot table or thereabouts. And then we've got a bit more room at the bottom for the waterfall chart and our tree map, which is next. Before we build the last chart, I should mention, if you want the confidence and skills to build powerful tools like this, my Excel Expert course covers the advanced formulas, data skills, and automation techniques that make your work faster, cleaner, and more accurate. It comes with practice files and support and mentoring from me personally. You'll find the link in the video description. Okay, the next chart is our tree map, which gives an immediate sense of which categories are taking the biggest share of your spending year to date. Let's go back to our demo file, and on the transactions, we're going to insert a pivot table and pop it on the analysis sheet. Let's put it in there, click OK, and while I'm here, I forgot to delete this, so let's get rid of those columns, just Control minus to delete them. This is the pivot table for our tree map, so we need the category type in the filters, and here we only want to see our expenses, and then I want the subcategory in the rows, and the debit spend in my values area. I don't need the grand total, so let's remove that. Let's format the numbers so they're comma separated and no decimal places. Now this is another chart that doesn't take pivot tables as their source data. So I'm going to copy the data that I need for the chart, Control-Shift-V to paste it in, insert, and this is the tree map. There's my chart. Let's right click and select the data. So editing, the series name is this cell here, and then the values are here. Click OK, and then we'll edit subcategory names, and that's done, and that's done. So now our tree map is pointing at the pivot table. It's going to pick up new changes. Let's format it a little bit. We don't need all of these legend items. They're just taking up a load of space because we already have the segments in the tree map labeled. Speaking of those labels, let's go into more data label options, and we'll add in the value. And then let's go in and change the colors in keeping with my theme, which is this one here. We'll give it a title, which is expenses by subcategory year to date. And let's Control X to cut it out, and we'll paste it in the dashboard. We can make it a bit bigger to take up the space available. I won't spend too much time on formatting because I think you get the idea. Lastly, let's highlight the net position year to date, and we'll do that by referencing the pivot table grand total. Notice it inserts the get pivot data function, which is great because as my pivot table changes size, I won't need to update this formula. It's just going to automatically adapt. Press enter, And we might need to make these columns a little bit wider to be consistent with the other ones and give this a bit more space. Now, as you use this file over multiple years, you'll want to filter the report to show a specific year, and we can do that with the slicer. So with the pivot table selected, or any cell in it selected, on the Insert tab of the ribbon, we've got Slicer. Here I want to insert a slicer for the year field. Click OK. Now, it's only got 1 year, and then we have this less than and greater than year ranges. Let's tidy it up. I've got a custom style here that will get rid of the borders and make it blend in with my pivot table. Then I'm going to right click on the slicer and go into Slicer Settings, and in here I want to hide items with no data. That'll get rid of these greater than and less than buttons. And I'm going to turn the header off, which is this section up here, because I think it's self-explanatory. Click OK, and now we have no clutter. Let's give it a few more columns. That's just going to allow it to expand as we add more years to our file. Let's make it a bit smaller and squeeze it in this space here at the top of the pivot table. Let's make it a little narrower. Okay, that's done. One more thing we need to do is prevent this pivot table from resizing. I'm going to right click, go into the pivot table options, and here I want to uncheck auto fit column widths on update. That's just going to keep my dashboard the size that it currently is, so it looks neat and tidy. Now, the slice is currently only assigned to this pivot table. We need to assign it to all of the pivot tables that feed the dashboard. To do that, select the slicer, right click, report connections, and in here we've got a list of all of the pivot tables in the file that reference our transactions data. All I need to do is select them, click OK, and now as I add more years of data, I can select the year I want to see, and it will filter all of the charts in the dashboard and this pivot table. You can now instantly see where your money goes and whether you're ahead or behind target. Plus, you can update this dashboard with one click. But first, let's set up the savings goal sheet that takes your overall net savings and automatically allocates it to your goals by priority. I've got a sheet set up for my savings goal, and we'll start by calculating our savings balance. We'll just pop it in this cell here, and I'll use the SUMIFS function to go to the transactions table, and we're going to sum the income/expense, where the subcategory equals savings. Close SUMIFS, and there's our savings balance, but it's showing up as a negative. We want to represent it as a positive in this particular analysis, so I'm just going to add a minus at the front. Now, if you have savings that predate these transactions, you can add it as an opening balance. For example, let's say we already have $1,000 in our savings account, and let's Alt equals to insert a sum of those two amounts. So that is our total savings. Now I'm going to define a name for this cell so that I can easily reference it later on. So up in the name box, just type in the name total savings, press enter, and that cell's now named. Let's give them some formatting. Just set it with this currency format, and let's make this bold. And we'll give it an underline there. Next, I need to set up a table to track my savings goals. In the interest of time, I'm just going to paste in the column headers. And I'm going to format it as a table. We'll go with this purple color in keeping with the theme for my savings tracker. My table has headers, click OK, and now all I need to do is list my goals. For example, I've got vacation, emergency fund, new car, tech upgrade, and travel gear. And then I just need to give them priority numbers. 1 is the top priority, 5 is the lowest. And their target amounts. So my vacation, I need 3,000, emergency fund is 5,000, new car is 12,000, 1,500 for the tech upgrade, and 800 for my travel gear. Let's turn on the total row for my savings table, and we'll sum the target. So now we have the target amount. Let's select these cells, and we'll just give them a format as well. I'll just add a comma separator. We don't need the dollar signs here, it'll just get too cluttered. Next, I need to calculate the cumulative target, and we can use SUMIFS again here. So the range I'm summing is my target column. The criteria range is my priority column, and the criteria is where it's less than or equal to, and the priority in this cell here. Close parentheses on SUMIFS. It spills the formula down. You can see our cumulative total, matches the total of the target. Now I can allocate the savings that I have to each of my goals. And for that, we're going to use the let function. I'm going to Control-Shift-U to expand the formula bar, and we're going to enter let up here just so we have a bit more space. I'm going to Alt-Enter down onto the next row. Now let just helps to organize the formula, and it allows me to declare variables, which makes it easier to write and follow the calculation. My first variable will be the total savings, so I'll call that total. And remember, we defined a name for total savings. There it is there in the IntelliSense. I'm going to tab to select it. You can see it's referencing this cell here, comma, Alt-Enter. My next variable is the previous balance. It's the total of our higher priority targets before this goal. So it's the cumulative target minus the target, comma, Alt-Enter. Next, we need to know what's left after funding those. So we'll call this available, and that is the total minus the previous. So notice it's referencing the variables defined earlier in my let formula. Tab to insert that, comma, Alt-Enter. We then allocate the smaller of the goal's target and the available savings. So we can calculate that with min. We're finding the minimum of the target and what's available. But we need to make sure it's never less than 0. So let's wrap this in max. So it's the maximum of 0 and the minimum of the target and what's available. Close max, close let. Press enter. You can see we've got enough money for our vacation and we've got $1,600 towards our emergency fund. The remaining is simply our target minus what's been allocated. We can calculate the percentage funded with an if formula. So first of all, we want to check that the target is not equal to 0. So if it equals 0, then we're going to return 0. Otherwise, we can then take the allocated amount divided by the target. Close if, press enter, and it's giving us whole numbers. Let's change that to a percentage. And then we need to do the same down here, but for that I need the total. So let's add in our sum for the allocated and add in a sum for the remaining, and then we can take the allocated divided by the target. And so we can see overall we've funded 21% of our savings goals. Lastly, for the months to goal calculation, we need to set a monthly target. So let's do that up here. We'll call this target saved per month, and let's say our target is $400. I'm going to name this cell target saved monthly. It's just going to make it easy for me to reference in the formula. I'll Control-Shift-U to collapse the formula bar. We don't need that big anymore. For this calculation, I'll also use if to first check that the target saved monthly is less than or equal to 0. Then we don't want to return anything. Otherwise, we're going to find the maximum of 0 and the rounded up. And we need another opening parentheses because we want to take the cumulative target minus the total savings, close parentheses, divided by the target saved monthly, comma 0, close parentheses on round up, close max, and then close if. Let's press enter, and you can see there's 9 months to complete our emergency fund savings, 39 for the new car, 43 for the tech upgrade, and 45 for travel gear. It doesn't make sense to have a total here. We can change this to maximum or just remove it altogether. Let's leave it at that. And then up here, I'm going to pull through some headline figures. Firstly, overall progress, which is simply the total of our percentage funded, and months to all goals. And here we can use the max function for the months to goal. Close parentheses. All right, that looks good. Let's format this as a currency, and I'm going to center these, and I'm going to bump these in a smidge because I want to put a fill color just in this pale purple, and then I'm going to insert a rectangle with rounded corners, which is this one down here, and holding down Alt, it'll snap it to the grid. And I'll just change the radius slightly. Let's get rid of the fill color so we can see the data behind, and we'll give it an outline in this purple shade. We'll change the weight to slightly lighter. All right, that's my headline figures. One other thing we could do is add in a donut or pie chart to represent the percentage of overall progress visually. To do that, I can take 1 minus the percentage complete. That's going to give me the balance. Selecting those two, I'm going to insert up here under pi. We'll go with the donut, and I'm going to place the donut over the top of that value. But before we resize it, I'm going to get rid of the legend and the chart title, and I'm going to just resize it to make it square and expand the donut itself to fill the space thereabouts in the chart area. So now we can resize it into the space we have available. It's looking a bit puny. Let's Control 1 to open the formatting. We'll change the donut hole to 50%. Let's also go and change the colors in keeping with my color scheme here. I want shades of purple, so we'll go with this one. And then because I don't have any labels for this chart, I'm going to right click, go into select data, and I'm going to change the series name here to saved. Click OK. Now I know that one is saved and one is not saved technically, but bear with me, there's method in my madness, because then I'm going to add data labels, but I'm going to go into more options. And over here under label options, I want to get rid of leader lines and show the series name. Now I only want one of these labels, so I'm going to select the one that's for the balance not saved and delete it. And then this one, I'm going to resize it and we'll bring it down into the middle of the donut. And let's go and format the font. We'll make it purple in keeping with the chart and make it bigger to fill the space. Let's also make it bold. We don't need the comma separator. Let's just have a new line. That looks good. So there's my donut chart that gives a visual indication of how much we've saved. Let's just do one more thing and we'll get rid of the shape outline. Now your savings tracker will automatically update as you add records to your transactions table. The only thing you need to edit are the targets saved per month and your goals and priorities. To update the tracker each month or each week, you just download fresh transactions from your bank. I've got some transactions here for November that I'll use to demonstrate. Now I should point out that you can combine transactions from multiple accounts, as you can see I've done here with transactions for credit and checking accounts. Let's copy them. So Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift right arrow, Control C to copy. Go to your transactions table, Control Shift down arrow to go to the very end. On the next available row, Control V to paste. And you'll notice automatically the subcategory, category and category type formulas have copied down. Now we've got some uncategorized items here. Let's filter the table for them. So right click, filter, filter by selected cells value. And you can see we've got transactions for Java the Hutt. Looks like we've got coffee from a new coffee shop. So we need to add this to our category table. We only need one word from this description, so Java. It's for coffee, it's discretionary and an expense. Let's go back to the transactions. You can see now we have nothing uncategorized. I can clear the filter on the table and go to the dashboard. To update the dashboard, keep an eye on the November column here. Go to the Data tab, click Refresh All, and immediately your dashboard is up to date with November's data. And if we go to our savings goals, you can see we're 1 month closer to achieving our goals. Perfect for keeping you on track. Now that you've got the full finance tracker working and updating automatically, there's one more upgrade that will save you even more time. So instead of downloading and pasting your bank transactions, you can automate that step too. If you'd like to take this tracker even further, check out this video next. It shows you how to use Power Query to gather and clean your data automatically. I'll see you there.